Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Don't Look Up, but if you have to, you might as well. The movie is called Don't Look Up, but I was to think that I would be having a sense of humor about all of this. So, going into this movie, I could say that I found this movie funny, but people could not. People could eventually go on and be like, God, I wasted time watching this movie. And that's okay. People might 100% hate this movie, and I can understand it. They're like, oh, this is the worst movie of this year. That's almost over. There's been very few movies that have really come out compared to, uh, compared to the last, stretch of time. Like, we've had more movies than we could have ever wanted, but still, anyways, so watching this film, really the one thing that I have to say is, God, Ron Perlman in this movie, God, is he hilarious. He's offensive, but hilarious. We have him just kind of like, come on already. Like, I got somewhere to be. And like they're just taking their time just rocketing this rocket off, and he's like, come on. And he's going on and offending people while they're going off on their merry ride. We end up having a cell phone company who goes into this film and is to eventually have their slice of the pie for this comment that is to make their way to Earth. And so we have Bash, who's going on this company, this cell phone company, who's to realize how possibly profitable it is to have this comet still making its way to Earth. And so, like, we have some funny things here. We have, interestingly enough, we have both Dr. Randall Mindy and we have Kate here, Kate Debasky. Why did I even try to pronounce that? We have Kate and we have Randall that are going on and trying to tell people that this is happening because they were to go on and see this comment from the Subaru telescope, which I guess is an actual thing. Somewhere out there beneath the world of things. Evidently, most of this movie was also filmed in Boston. All right, cool. There was some fine arts stuff happening there. We have some science stuff that is to be broken down here. We have things like orbital dynamics being set in here, and which I guess is also to be called orbital mechanics. We have the planetary defense coordination office that is to be called into being a thing in this movie, which they end up telling you that this organization is actually real. There's a whole logo and everything like that for these people, and pat them on the back for eventually showcasing that these people exist. So, going on in this movie, I can have fun with this. For me, I find this movie fun, but a lot of people might have brutally hated this film, and I get that. I'm sure with this movie there's a lot of mixed emotions. How we have Ariana Grande in this film, who is to give us a concert ballad of this whole world ending kind of thing. And I was like, okay, we didn't need that in this movie. That kind of feels like they were wasting time in this film. Like, we do have some stuff here that is funny, but also it feels like a waste. So there's kind of this tug and pull about this movie, and some people could find this film to be awful, and some people could find this film to be like, no, I had fun watching this film. To where I think that this movie, for me, honestly, is just a middle of the road kind of film. It's like it's funny, and like we really just have to naturally assume that there's not going to be an Armageddon deep impact like resolution of this movie. And like I just like am like, okay, well I guess they're probably not going to go on and do another one of these because there's so many one-off movies that people couldn't have been bothered to go on and do yet another film, unless it's like another kind of one of these parody kind of films. But we also have things like Chris Evans in this film for a very brief time for whatever reason, because throughout this movie, they're going on and trying to make a weird, goofy profit off the comet. They're going and having Dr. Randall Mindy, who seems to be this astronaut astrologist. I'd like to F kind of movement going on with Randall. And so Randall is to basically be the face of this thing. He's going on and at some point in this movie being uh, the chief astronomy defense guy, I think at some point. And so like they just give him some weird goofy title that makes no sense. We go on at some points in this movie, we continue to take one joke and continue to reiterate it somewhere in this film. And like I guess I could find that funny, but like uh, like I could laugh like why they kept just going on and on about this joke. I could see that could possibly be funny to people, but again, let me know in the comments below how you felt about Don't Look Up. If you couldn't have bothered be watching it, if you did watch it and you did laugh, if you were having mixed feelings about this movie, by all means, let me know in the comments below. Maybe you watched it, you had a fun time. Maybe you watched it and this is the worst movie you've ever seen in your life, and that's okay. Because let's go out of our way to go into that double five time territory. I'm not going to go through every minute to minute of this movie and also break down all the science of the film. I am just going to go through the meat and chunky potatoes of this movie so that way I can just get it out of the way. Not that I hated this movie, it was just the fact that I'm like, there is so much stuff going on in this film that, like, in all honesty, it's funny, but do I feel that I absolutely need to spout out about all of it? No. Check it out on Netflix. It's conveniently a 2 hour and 18-minute film. So let's go into it as a severely edited down variation of whatever this movie really is, to me, in honesty. Let's go into it. Let's go into that double five, because it's about that time to yet go again. There's a spoiler time, it's about that time to get to spoil this movie. That was a heavily rushed thing that I did there. Anyways, let's go on. So, we of course have Kate that is going on this Subaru telescope, and Kate is going and singing the Wu-Tang Clan song. Good for her. Evidently, Jennifer Lawrence was kind of like, yeah, like, I kind of felt awkward about that whole, like, me having to sing the Wu-Tang Clan song because me rapping, really? Ugh, ah. But she went through with it. There's an article about it. To each their own. So, Kate goes on and is to use this telescope, which there's like some things called like observatories. There's certain things called the Hubble telescope. There's certain things called the Coit Observatory in Boston. There's a lot of these things and stuff and sciencey thingies that eventually I just randomly came up with in my brain of knowledge for telescopes. But it seems that we have this Subaru telescope that is to find this comet. And it seems that Kate is to be calling uh, Randall Mindy, and a bunch of other people. So we have everybody just like drinking up cider and having a party because they've discovered this thing. And so we now have them wanting to say, it's like, well, what's the trajectory of this comet? Like, where do you think it's possibly going to head, going to land? What's the size mass of it? And yada, yada, yada. So Dr. Rundle Mindy is like, well, I haven't used orbit dynamics in a very long time, so let's kind of scientifically like whiteboard this out. So we have Kate going and giving him the numbers, and so Randall is starting to like whiteboard this out, and he is to realize that these numbers are really starting to change and not for the good. So Randall is telling everyone to leave but Kate, and so we have both of them kind of continuing to crunch the numbers in private to realize that this comet is going to hit Earth. So now we end up having both Randall and Kate going on and speaking to a woman called Dr. Calder. Dr. Calder is to go on and find a man called Dr. Teddy Oglethorpe. And he is to be a part of the Planetary Defense Coordination Office. And they end up telling you in the movie that this place is actually real. Here's the logo. Good on them. No offense to these people. Like, I'm not trying to offend them. So we go on and we have Teddy, who comes in and is to, of course, also work these numbers and to also realize that these two characters, both Randall and Kate, are correct. So we now have to have both Kate and Randall going on to this military transport plane and make their way to Washington, D.C., because I think that these characters are not actually in or nearby this thing called the DC. So these both Randall and Kate are to really just be told absolutely nothing. But it's also kind of hilarious because both these characters are to just desperately want a seat on this plane because they're like like they're just kind of just laying there and they're kind of worried about the world ending. And so they're going into bathrooms, splashing water on themselves. Randall is to mention he has a Xanax, and Kate is to take it from him, and she's like, "Thank you, I appreciate it." So we have both Randall and we have Kate going to the White House, where they're supposedly given snacks by this. I believe it's this general. Who I cannot confirm or deny. Yeah, it's General Themes. What a goofy name. So, General Themes is to get these guys, of course, these chips and these water, and he is to go on and tell them it's like $20 for all this. And they're like, $20? Like, really? And so, I think it was like $10, $20. It doesn't really matter. But we end up finding out that Kate is to go back for more of these to find out that they're actually free. She's like, like that guy took money from me. Like this guy swindled me, and he knew good and well like what to do here. So, and they go on and on about the whole like this general swindling them out of this money. When they go back into the White House and see him later, like, hey, don't trust that general. He swindles people out of money. And then we go on later when Kate is with her future husband in this movie. She goes on about it again, where it's like that general knew what he was doing. And so that was kind of fun that they kept bringing it up because like I guess they had nothing better to do just to like have that conundrum of I wish at the very tail end of the movie instead of giving a crap about the world ending they would have just had that joke used one more time for a crappy reason. So we go on and we're having these guys waiting forever for the president because I guess the president is in some hot water. There is to be this Supreme Court nominee, this sheriff that seems to be in some hot water, and they're having to deal with all the controversy of that. But all of a sudden, we just kind of hear in the background a happy birthday cake going on in the background. So it's like, what's really going on in there? Are they just kind of are they trying to not give about these people? Like, do they have nothing better to do, or like what's like really going on here? Because it's kind of hilarious that these people, like both Randall and Kate, have no clue of what's going on. Teddy doesn't know what's going on, and so eventually, I think Teddy is to tell them that there is some massive celebrity stars that had broken up. Both Ariana's Ariana Grande's character Riley Bina and DJ Cello had broken up, and that's the big massive thing on the news. That's all everybody cares about. So we have both Randall and Kate make their way to the White House and are finally going to talk to the president after they had to spend a day in a hotel and because like these guys couldn't have been bothered not to just say for like 5 to 10 minutes. But we have both Randall and Kate telling people that this comment is going to hit in 6 months. So that's why everybody's just kind of procrastinating about this whole thing, just because it's like, well, it's 6 months from now. What if it changes course? What if something happens? So Randall and Kate are going in here with this information, telling them it's basically 100% certain that this comet is going to hit Earth and kill everybody. It's a world killer. And so the president and Jonah Hill's character, Jason, are going on and saying like, well, like I think we're gonna get our science guys, our top minds, and see if all this information is right. And they're going on and like we're the leading experts on this, and they're like, no, we'll get our science guys, and really just like dwindle down the numbers because also we have President Orlean, who is Meryl Streep here, that is to say it's like, well, like let's wait to do anything about this till midterms so that way I can go and have something to do here, like a big event like a 9/11 or some kind of something that will give a presidency a boost when there's to be controversy to be had. Because this sheriff, who is to be this uh, Supreme Court candidate, is going on and saying controversy about the president and how she sent him like provocative photos, and this guy is also to have been a nudist at some point and had a whiffy stiffy when he was to go and perform without clothes on at um, some art class somewhere. Sure, like that has to be the most vitally important thing going on here because the world is coming to an end. So, because we have Kate going and having herself so wrapped up in the world ending, but her boyfriend is coming and telling Kate about this controversial topic about this sheriff. And so Philip is like, no, like this is a really important event, and I need to like figure out how I can get some more coverage on this. And so Kate is like, well, the freaking world's gonna end. Like, who gives a but she doesn't tell him then, but she tells him later on, and then he's like, oh my god, the world is ending? And it's like, yeah. So the president doesn't give a about like what they're talking about here. She goes on and talks about her uh like her people are telling her not to smoke, but she wants to smoke anyways, and all this kind of other stuff. And we just consistently have it where both Randall and Kate are thinking that, like, dude, we're basically putting our lives technically in the hands of these people that couldn't be bothered, and the world is going to end. And so all these people care about is like their points and their approval rates and their yada yada yada. So we have Teddy going and telling both Kate and Randall to go on the news and tell people about this, even though Jason is telling these guys that, like, well, hey, everything that you're saying here is all confidential and don't tell anybody about this. And they're like, sure, sure, yeah, we're gonna leave our lives in your guys' hands for you to kill us all off. Yeah. So Kate and Randall are to go to these news circuits, and so we have both Randall and Kate going on this one news report, and so all they give us about is still this sheriff and this coverage on it, and then this celebrity couple that, of course, is breaking up. So Riley Bina is coming on this show, and she's going on and talking to both Kate and Randall. And Randall's like, well, like me and both Kate had heard about your like breakup, and like we want to like give our like condolences, and like our we're so sorry that that happened to you. And Riley turns around and is like, shut up, you old F. Like, oh my god. Wow. So Riley goes on to this news report, and so she's talking to both these anchors, who are, of course, to be Jack Bremer and Bree Eventy, who Bree is to be Kate Blanchett. I was like, hey, the girl from the girl who played Hela on Thor Ragnarok, and we also have freaking Tyler Perry, who's been in a number of his movies. Tyler Perry. I plus I've seen him in God uh the one detective movie. Like I can't remember what exactly it was called, but figures. I know it was the whoever the character was from Kissed Girl in Morgan Freeman was that character in Kissed Girl. Tyler Perry had played that character in another movie. It doesn't matter. But anyway, at least I said it. So we go on and have Riley, who is going and is to say that this guy DJ Cello having an affair on her, like she'll forgive him for all that if she can just have him back and work things out. And so DJ Cello is crying and he's like, yeah, like, will you marry me on this news report? And they're like, yeah. It's like, okay, this is really important. So then Randall and Kate go up and they end up getting like the shortest segment possible for this thing, where they both go up there and Kate refuses to like go and put on any kind of new clothing. and we're having people consistently tell them that they need media training to kind of be like better interviewers or better interviewees. So we go on and have these characters that are going on and trying to explain like where they had sought out this information with a Subaru telescope, and we have Tyler Perry's character who's like, "Hey, I didn't even know Subaru made telescopes," and so we go on and have them like talking anything about the really just the world ending, and like they're asking them about aliens and if there's life out there and all kinds of goofy stuff that makes no importance here. So we finally have it where Kate just loses her and she's like, you know what? Like, we've been like having problems sleeping for days, and we came on here to tell you that the world is ending and this comet uh, is going to hit the earth, and all you guys give a about is anything but that. So Kate goes off and she becomes this instant meme of a thing that everybody is to heckle her and are to put all these kind of goofy images of her, edit her out and make her look bad and all this kind of stuff. And so Randall Mindy is to come on and be a much more like, man, I should have given her some Xanax. And he goes on and is trying to explain to people, it's like, well, yeah, like this comet is going to hit and this and that. And so after this whole interview was to be over, all the things that really mattered is how viral that these two characters were to be. That Randall became this instant astronomer I'd like to F, and and that everybody is to be really on the positive end of Randall, and that Kate is kind of the butt of a joke, and like this is the girl that is to have this comment named after her. And so there are at some points when Kate is going to do interviews where like, well, how can we trust you because you're named after this comet? And like we have people that don't even believe that this comet actually exists, and like these guys are saying no, we have like proof that like it exists, like we did all the work to showcase that this is an existing thing, like this isn't a joke, this isn't a hoax. So but we go on and we have both Kate and Randall who are to be sent off to have bags being put over their heads by the FBI. And so now Randall and Kate are going back to the to the White House to now, since the president is to be in some hot water and I guess approval rates are down. She is, of course, now, because there's a scandal amidst her, she's to now want to focus on this comet that is hurling towards Earth because it'll work in her favor. So, like, oh, like, I know why you're so focused in wanting to do this now, so that way it can help you and your presidency. So, the president is going and telling these people, it's like, well, hey, like, go and announce this everywhere. Go and get people, like, aware of this situation. That's when Randall, of course, becomes the chief astronomy defense guy. And so we all of a sudden, that's when we start to have Bash, the company, come in here that, of course, is to be owned by Peter Isherwell. And we have Peter going and doing this, like, this promo thing, kind of promoting his company and just kind of showing people this new cell phone. And we have these kids in the background. They're like, well, can I see something? And Peter is like, no, like, you can't see anything. And as the kids are walking off stage, they're like, hey, give me those phones because they're not yours. Give me. And so we also have Peter, after they end up showing this kind of video about these animals attacking one another. We have Peter who's just like, you know what, I don't know about that video. I think that video is a little bit too aggressive. I think it maybe sends the wrong message. And like, so we have this whole thing going on for some absurd reason. But Peter goes on to make it to be the sponsor of this whole mission, this whole thing, the whole comet thing that they're doing. So we now have them rely on a man who is to be called Benedict Drask, who is to be Ron Perlman in this movie. So we have Benedict going on and screaming and yelling at all these kids working out, like humiliating them. And then we turn around and have this guy have him be the leader of this mission to go and wipe out this comet with this nuclear bomb. So we go on and have them do this whole like the president and Benedict are going and doing these speeches, and Benedict is weirdly saying some speech from Saving Private Ryan, and Kate calls Jason out about it. It's like, isn't that from Saving Private Ryan? And he's like, no. Anyway, so we eventually have Benedict going on leading this mission, and so they are having this whole like countdown thing, sending off this rocket. We have Benedict who's getting very impatient, who's like, come on, motherfuckers, like, come on, let's go, like, I'm busy, like, I have things to do, come on. So and I thought that was funny about Benedict here. So I still think it's hilarious. So we have Randall, of course, who is to be like the face of this whole thing. Kate gets bum kissed nothing, to the point of eventually her being like the butt of a joke and her being forced off, to eventually having everyone hate her, even her own parents. And Kate is to be forced to go off to like be a grocery store clerk at some point, and having a bunch of all of a sudden fanboys go and approach her, say, hey, I have a poster of you on my wall. Like, yeah, like, you're the best, you're the greatest, whatever. So Randall is to go on and give these people the send-off for this mission. And so both the president and the guy who owns the Bash Company, Peter, are going off and talking alone. And so the astronauts go off, and then all of a sudden they're course correcting, and then all the astronauts start landing onto this thing of water somewhere, and it's like, what the fuck? So we find out that Bash's company had realized that this comet has minerals in it and materials and has metal on it that is to be really profitable. And so now Bash wants to go on and try to put kind of bombs into this comet and kind of break it up into little smaller pieces, and have these pieces go on to fall into the Pacific, supposedly, and then create a bunch of jobs for a lot of people to mine all of these materials like gold, and like they end up seeing all this like random stuff, because Bash is to also say that there is to be a metal that is to be in this comet that has something to do with cellular uh, like pieces, and that it seems that right now, one other country is trying to avoid getting Peter to get this certain kind of metal, and so now since that comet has this metal in it somewhere, they want to go and try to mine it to get it because there's so many resources on there that they could have, that is to be trillions of monies to eventually to have. So now the comet just keeps going on in into basically orbit now, to where people can even see this comet coming. And so we have Randall, who is doing all of these he's doing all these commercials, he's doing all of these Sesame Street spots, he's doing all of this stuff, and he's being the face of this thing. And we have like Comet insurance and all kinds of stuff. And so Randall is doing all of this promotion, and he ends up going on and having an affair with the news anchor Bree, because she's like touching his thigh, and Bree is to grab onto Randall, and she's to like ask him, it's like, tell me again that the world is ending. And Randall's like, the world is going to end. And she's like, oh, she's just so enthralled with this guy, and they're having an affair, and they're banging it out. For all of a sudden, June, Mindy, who is to go on and realize that her husband is having an affair, chucking all of these medication and drugs and all this stuff right at Randall here. And so it seems that everybody is to eventually go right back to where they are, to realize that they need to be. Because eventually Randall, after all of this publicity and all of this fame and possibly fortune, we finally have Randall, who's realized, like, you know what? I just want to go home. Like, I feel that right now I just want to go home to be with my family. And that's all I really want to do. As Kate is going on and being with these guys smoking weed and seeing the comment, Randall all of a sudden is getting out of his car. All these cars are honking, and Randall is also seeing the comment. And both now Randall and Kate are getting together to like look at it together. We have Randall, who calls this comment like it's horrific, but it's beautiful, or something like that. He has this kind of like oxymoron like thing of a way of approaching this. So we then go on and have these guys go and eat at Randall's house. Randall has convinced his wife to technically take him back for however long, because this comment is coming. And so the Bash Company is going on and sending all these drones to try and mine onto this comment, but everything is failing. Nothing is working. And Randall had to convince people that all the science is sound of what they're doing, when he's just like, I don't know. Like, I can't put myself in the hands of these people. Toward the point where Randall, like, flips out on news and is, like, shouting, like, ah! Like, these people are morons! And I'm like, wow, Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, man, like, the performance that you had to put on here, the shouting match that you had to go on here, and just like, this president is a moron, you can't trust him, and this and that. It's like, He's just going off and off, and like he's like, all you people give a about is anything other than our lives coming to an end. Blah blah blah. Like he just viciously. Till then he realizes, after again he's putting this sheet over his head, that he's like, you know what, I just want to go home. Like, I just don't care anymore. I just want to go home. And so Bree is to go on and like just quickly just kind of like, well, I guess that's it for us kind of thing, and she walks off. To where her and Tyler Perry's character goes off to some bar somewhere and just drinks the night away. So Randall makes it back home and they're all eating dinner together. Terry's there. I'm like, good. Like, we're having these kind of like all these people just kind of just here together, just going off onto the sunset, so to speak, in a deathly way. We had the president at one time calling Randall, mentioning to him, like, well, hey, like, we are all going to go and take a ship and make it to another planet that's like Earth, and we're going to be, like, cryoed out and so on and so forth. And we had Peter, who is mentioning that the president is going to die by some weird, goofy means. So we go on and we have Randall, Kate, and her fiance. I won't come up with the name. I could care less, in all honesty. Because he proposes to her in this car ride. He's like, hey, like, Randall, for a minute, could I be vulnerable? And so he ends up going and trying to get engaged with this girl, knowing full well that he's probably going to die, and he's probably never slept with this woman, probably never kissed her, and probably never whatever. So we go on and we have all these people eating dinner. And so basically, while the world is, of course, exploding, people are going to like die or be killed off here. We have everybody just rioting in the streets. People are going crazy. Certain news reports are going on and telling everybody that this mission has failed because they were sending all of these drones out to this comet, and they were losing drone after drone after drone. And they're like, well, how many can we lose? And Peter doesn't really have a definitive answer. So they fail. The planet is to be destroyed, but I guess supposedly out of everybody, Jonah Hill was the only one that survived on planet Earth. And he was, of course, sending a YouTube video where it's like, hey guys, like, comment, and subscribe. And I was like, yeah, like, I'm sure a lot of people who have like clips of whatever movies, that's going to be the first thing that they probably put somewhere if they're a YouTuber, and they probably will have that thing of footage there. So yeah, we also have all the people who go into this cryo planet, whatever thing. And there are, of course, all these people that don't have a lick of clothes on that are going and walking through this place. You see a bunch of people in this end credit scene that are like, oh, hey, look at this little bird here. And then, like, Meryl Streep ends up getting murdered here. And there's obviously moments where I'm like, yeah, they're not going to really show Meryl Streep's body here. They're probably going to go on and, like, just kind of any part of her is probably going to be some double or something like that, because I'm like, come on, they're not going to show Meryl Streep's actual body here. Just because it's like, hey, you don't pay Meryl Streep enough to do that kind of thing. So yeah, we go on and we have all these people, and they're on this planet now, and like we'll figure out how eventually that might ever be a thing, which probably won't be. But anyways, I think that's all that I wanted to say about this film. Kind of rushed it out because without a doubt I didn't want to talk for this for like an hour and change and whatever. Like, I just kind of like really fast tracked through this one, much more so than I would have wanted to. Let me know in the comments below what was your favorite part. Let me know what you liked the most. If you liked this movie at all. If you hated this movie, that's okay too. Like, maybe mention the reasons why you hated this movie, because I can understand that also. Back and forthing, yeah, there might be some kind of issues and whatever. But with that said, I'm going to get out of here so I can go on to other things. So, goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.